and not a curse. We must become, I honor all these great men and women of God, but listen, we must become acquainted with things like order or protocol. We want to go in buck wild. We got to learn what's familiar. Or rather, we need to familiarize ourselves with where we're being sent to. Order or protocol, we must learn honor, and we must learn people. Protocol, honor, and people. When we stay outside of the place or the thing that God called us to, we go in and we go in error. Before the prophetic office of elevation, you've got to learn those things. It is God's church. So God will, now, as we are in training and oversight, because we learn, we are developed through training. I don't think I said that. Training and the oversight is to make sure we get the training right. I'm glad you like that. So we must represent God and His church in an excellent way, because you are His gift. Therefore, we are developed and trained into whom we are to become. That's what Samuel had to learn. He was put in that place, so wise of his mother. We know how great of a prophet Samuel became, so wise of his mother, so he could get it in his early days, because when you get old, you can't teach you nothing. So Samuel, see, he was put there early. So the Bible tells us what he did, but I want to break it down. Samuel served. He learned how to serve. He learned the rituals. He learned the protocol. And while he was serving, he also saw before he spoke. Oh, I want to say it one more time. While he was getting familiar with in a strange place, he served. But while he was serving, he saw. But he wasn't allowed to speak until he was trained. Are y'all with me? I'm sweating. We know the story that Eli was the big priest, and his boys, come on, his two sons, were in the church. And little Samuel was like an altar boy. And so he lived with the priest, so he saw everything the priest and his sons and the people did, and couldn't say nothing. Tell your neighbor, shut up until God tells you to say something. A prophet can't talk everything they see. You God's gift. You shut up until God says speak. I'm almost done here. Yes, so there is little Eli, and he is working and serving and being quiet. That's hard for a prophet to do. But he learned that in his youth. So we could teach him something when we recognize the gifts early. And we begin to groom and train and develop. Thank God for those that groom and train and develop the prophets, but not try to rule over them as if they also made them. God made us for Him. So when God He served, he saw before he spoke. And so you know how it ends. When God was giving him a prophetic word, he learned some things about himself. That's development and training. He learned that he was too codependent on another man's voice. Y'all ain't liking me. However, that was his weakness and his error. God didn't tell him that. But when we get familiar, first it was strange, but when it got familiar, thank you. When he got familiar, he got in his flesh, or he discovered he still wasn't ready yet. Because one thing a prophet has to be able to do is discern voices. Lord have mercy. To discern voices, you've got to be able to recognize, because he uses a man's voice, and then God's voice. So when the Lord kept calling his name and he kept running to the bishop, to Eli, whose season was running out, not because of age but disobedience. I just threw that in for free. I think you could prophesy till you die, but if you're disobedient, your season might be up. So we know the story. I know we know Bible. A prophet has to know Bible. So his season was running out, and God already had a plan. He put a baby right in the house with him who would obey God. And so what the good thing is, even when we are in disobedience, God still can use us to do his work. So what he did is, when he ran to Eli, I thank God for Eli, even though he was doing wrong over here, he had enough sense in him and enough God in him to redirect Samuel back to God, which is what real priests and prophets do. I could have got a few more claps for that. A real prophet, come on, a real matured prophet or priest or bishop or whatever will redirect you back to God, because if you don't know his voice, you don't need to hear my voice. It's a season where we do hear the matured voices to direct and train us, but when God's getting ready to use you, you better know God's voice from a man's voice.